Building your first $10,000 is easily the hardest part of wealth building. Once you cross that milestone, your money starts working for you and the momentum picks up. But how exactly do you get there in your 20s without feeling like you're sacrificing everything? That is what we're breaking down today. So starting out with the why does $10,000 even matter in the first place? I think most people underestimate how powerful your first 10K is. It's not about the number itself, it's about building habits, discipline, and confidence with money. Think of it like you're going to the gym for the first time. Your first few months are going to be the hardest because you don't see any results. You could be eating super clean, lifting 4, 5, 6 days a week, but you're really not seeing much results, especially that first month or two. But maybe by 3 months, if you take a before picture at the very beginning, you look 3 months later, you'll say, wow, I've actually seen quite a bit of momentum and you are starting to see results. And here's the math is that if you invest $10,000 at just a 10% return, that money can grow to over $67,000 in 20 years with no additional contributions. So even just putting 10K in, you get 10% a year, you leave it alone. You don't add any more money to it and you're going to be at 67K. But let's decide you keep adding money to it. Then you're looking at multiple six figures by the time you're in your 40s. And again, that's just off of the first $10,000. This could definitely be a lot larger if you invest a lot more over time. Point is that the first 10K is proof you can actually save, invest, and build wealth. And after that, the snowball starts rolling. Going from 10K to 20K will take you less time than 0 to 10K, assuming the market is continually going up. Again, if it has a bad year, you don't really have any control over that, but let's pretend the market's going to get you a 10% return over the next 3 years, just 10%, 10%, 10%, which I know that's not how it works, but just for the sake of example, then going from 0 to 10K is going to take longer than going from 10 to 20, and then 20 to 30 will actually be even quicker than 10 to 20. It's going to get progressively quicker moving up $10,000 increments. And I personally have seen this, especially once you hit the 100K mark, but that's a whole different video. We'll talk about that later. Just getting to the first 10K is the focus here and why 10K matters. So that is a brief explanation as to why 10K matters. Now let's talk about step one, and kind of the main thing you want to do is start out by trying to figure out how you can increase your income. If you're in your early 20s, there's a good chance you're not at your peak earning potential yet. I think most of us can agree we want to be making more money by the time we're 35 or 40 versus the 20-year-old version of ourselves. And that's fine because this is the stage of life where every skill you learn actually has a huge ROI, and your money that you are investing today has a lot bigger impact than the money that you invest when you're 50 or 60 years old. So a couple ways of increasing your income is one of them is just taking on different side hustles. Like for example, I even talked about in my last video, I used to drive for DoorDash to pay my bills, but DoorDash is a decent side hustle. It can work out pretty good if you have a decent car that gets good mileage. Maybe you have a skill that you can use. For example, I like film and photography. So, you could do some freelancing work where you're trying to make a little bit of money on the side and leveraging that skill. You could go and tutor people. You could dog sit. You could house sit. There's a lot of different side hustles that you can look up online. And although they might not be glamorous or fun, they can definitely help you stack cash quickly. And an interesting side hustle I've actually done before is donating your blood plasma. It actually makes a lot better money than you would think. But if you're scared of needles, do not do it. That's for sure. But I have done that to make money, I will admit. And it's not bad, especially that first month starting out. It's really not that bad. But that is kind of the first thing is you could take on different side hustles. The next thing is focusing on your main career. So whether that's looking for different certifications, skills, or maybe networking opportunities that can land you promotions or higher paying roles. Again, referring to my last video of going from DoorDash to 140K a year, this is something I did was job hopping quite a bit, and that helped me move up a lot in regards to my income. I found that if you can work at a company, learn a lot, work very hard, take on new skills, and then within a couple of years, maybe look to jump somewhere else and get a higher paying role, then that is a very easy way to increase your income. And some of the salary jumps can be very large when you do this, because let's pretend that somebody makes 60K a year and they get promoted. The company already knows what you make, so they can, promote you from 60 to let's say 70K a year or 75K a year, compared to if you jump to a new company, they don't know your prior salary, so you can kind of leverage that in negotiations, which is really nice. So that is the next thing, is focusing on your main career. And then the final thing is leveraging your free time. So when you're in your 20s, you often have a lot more energy and a lot fewer responsibilities than later on in life, so you can use that to your advantage. For example, whether that's making a creative thing that could potentially make you money, like a YouTube channel, or maybe you have a TikTok page or an Instagram page, something like that you're passionate about. Again, if you're not married and you don't have kids, you have a lot more time, and time is your friend here. So increasing your income is extremely important. Now that is step one here. Now step two, and this is definitely a big one, is control your spending. Income is one side of the equation, but if you spend everything you make, you're never going to hit $10,000. I'm not saying to live on ramen and act like you have no money at all, but try to create a very simple system where you're tracking your top expenses, you're saving up, you're paying for them. So like your main expenses are probably going to be like housing, transportation, and food. So, your groceries, your rent, and then your gas. gas or something like that. And you can set up automatic savings so money moves out of your checking account the day you get paid. For example, like whether I'm paid or not, I always put $25 a week into a high yield savings account, and I'm still investing most of my money on top of this, but this is just a habit I have where every single week that 25 gets sent off. I don't really think about it. It just, it's automatic. So that is a very easy way to save money. And the other thing you're going to want to do with controlling your spending is learning to separate your wants from your needs. A simple hack some people may do with this is actually pretend that your paycheck is 80% of what it really is. So if you get paid $1,000, only let yourself spend $800 and the other $200 can get saved or invested before you even touch it. And if you do that every time you get paid over the period of a year, that's going to add up very quickly. So controlling your spending is extremely important. You can sit there and increase your income all you want, but if you just keep spending every new dollar you make, then it really doesn't help at all. So you got to be able to control your spending. The next step that is really important in my opinion is building systems, not just habits. A lot of people fail at saving because they rely on willpower, and that doesn't work long term. I think one thing that works very well is trying to automate things. So like I said before, I have a direct deposit that goes into a high yield savings account. So every single week, that $25 that's leaving my account. You can also have things set up like, for example, if your company has a 401k, you could put 6% of your salary into the 401k. So that is automatically getting taken out. Or you could set up an automatic transfer to like a Roth IRA. So once a month or once every couple weeks, you have money just automatically go into that. And then you can then invest that money, which will get you closer to the 10K mark. And then one thing some people do, I personally don't do this, but you could also use apps that round up purchases like Acorns. I do not do that, but some people have found success with that. But again, this is kind of your call here. But building systems and not just habits is very important. Basically, have a routine and have some sort of structure so that you know that you're going to invest or save X amount every time you get paid, or maybe you're trying to save up a certain amount every month. And over time, as you save and invest this money, it's only going to get you closer and closer to that 10K mark. The next step I'd like to talk about is invest early, even if it's small. Once you have some savings, start investing something, even if it's just $50 a month, $10 a week, $25 a week, whatever it may be. And the reason why you want to invest, even if it's small, is because the earlier you start, the longer your money compounds, which is an extremely powerful tool for building wealth long term. For example, if you invest $200 a month starting at age 22 and you stop at age 32, your money will grow to over $300,000 by age 60. And if you wait until 32 to start investing that same $200 a month, you'll end up with less than $200,000. And this is assuming a 10% return. So the point is that time is your biggest asset right now. Don't waste it. And then looking out to the future and why it's so important is let's look long term. What actually happens after 10K? So once you hit 10K, you're going to have a little bit of a shift. You're going to realize that, dang, you can save up $10,000, you can invest, and you can build real wealth. And that momentum is going to make the next $10,000 easier, and then the 10K after that even faster. Kind of like what I was talking about earlier, going from 0 to 10K, let's say that takes you 6 months. If you have those same habits and the market gives you the same return, going from 10 to 20 will be even quicker, 20 to 30 is even quicker than that, and it only is going to speed up over time. And so this is where you can start thinking bigger, is trying to build up multiple income streams, invest more aggressively, maybe even start a business or just start buying assets. For me, in regards to buying assets, it's just investing in the S&P 500. It's really that simple. And you can do that by buying something called VOO or VOO. It's just an ETF that tracks the 500 largest companies in the US. So going from $0 to $10,000 is very much built on discipline. It's not necessarily built on the market giving you really good returns. The way you're going to get there is by having really good habits, finding ways to increase your income, keep your expenses flat, and just save and invest as much as you can, and you will get there before you know it. The first 10K is just the beginning, but once you cross it, the wealth building journey becomes way easier. So that is it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like down below, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.